Hi, this is Roger Moore, and you're listening to James Bond Radio.
Hello, and welcome to episode 137 of James Bond Radio, where today we'll be discussing all about our trip to Pinewood and Bondstars. Are you excited for it, Tommy?
I'm very excited, man. What a good year it was. There were some key JBR family members missing this time around, sadly, but there were also a lot of new ones that we hadn't met before. So it was a good time had by all. Live and Let Die, wasn't it?
It was indeed. Live and Let Die. So this was basically, it's a 45th anniversary sort of special, and also Sir Roger's diary that he wrote during the making of Live and Let Die has obviously been re-released. So it's kind of a celebration of both of those. But yeah, it was great. We had so many of the JBR lot there, compared to like last year and stuff. So that was really, really cool. And we got the full garden tour, which we didn't sort of get last year, and a few other bits and pieces. So it'd be good to kind of delve into that. And in fact, the whole weekend was good because we had a really good Saturday as well. Did a bit of location sort of spotting, didn't we? So we can have a good old chinwag about all of that.
Yeah, man. It was a really solid Bondian weekend, I think, all round. We spent the Saturday kind of yomping around, looking at some various locations. And then we obviously did Bondstars on the Sunday. And then you and I went on a little special mission on the Monday after that as well. So it was like a long weekend of solid bondage. So we're going to give you the full report of that. We've had special permission from Gareth at Bondstars. We basically, with the Q&As that they have on stage there every year, we managed to grab a little bit of video and audio of those. So we're going to include those in today's episode as well. So for all of those that couldn't make it, obviously, you can have a little taste of what we had in there. Now, I just literally grabbed it on my phone, so the audio quality isn't the best in the world, but it's still listenable. So you can hear from Maddy and various people involved in Live and Let Die. So it's going to be a lot of fun today.
Certainly is, certainly is. So before we get into the theme tune, should we have a little listener trivia question?
Let's do it. Who's it from this time?
Okay, so the listener trivia this week is from Mr. Steve Atwell.
Hello, gentlemen. This is Steve Atwell calling from Kansas City, right smack in the middle of the United States. And I have a trivia question for you. We all know that George Lazenby was the first Australian actor to play James Bond. But my question is, who was the first Australian actor to play Felix Leiter?
Ooh, I have to be honest. I think I've been caught on the back foot there, Chris. I didn't realise there was one. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think this is a very, very sneaky question.
Oh yeah.
And I think I know what he's getting at, but we'll have to discuss it later because. Yeah, I mean, that's a sneaky old question. But yeah, I've got an idea of what I think he's getting at, but we have to wait until the end of the episode to give it a go.
Well, as long as you're on the scent, man, because I'm racking my brains and I can't think of anybody. So they're obviously there's something going on there. But very nice. Right. All right, Steve, thank you for your question. Good work, mate. Good stuff. So let's get a little bit of theme tune on the go, and then we'll get cracking.
My name's Bond. James Bond. Bond. James. Bond, what do you think you're doing? Keeping the British hand up, sir.
Welcome to James Bond Radio. News, reviews, and discussion of all things 007.
Pussy. As you can see, I have no problem with female authority.
Oh, pipe down, 007.
Do you expect me to talk?
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
So there we are, Saturday afternoon, the sun is shining, everyone rocks up at Pinewood Hotel. And it's pretty cool, it's quite a nice little meeting spot, isn't it? And it's not too far from obviously Pinewood itself and a few of the other locations around there. Now, I was sort of particularly excited because you'd never sort of done those location tours, have you? Sort of around.
No. So yeah, so around Pinewood, there's loads of little nuggets of classic Bondom, isn't there? That are just there. So obviously you've got like Shrublands is around there. You've got the Black Park locations from Goldfinger where Tilly gets a bit decapitated by Oddjob. You've got Stoke Poges itself, the golf club from Goldfinger. All those kinds of things are all just kind of dotted around, and you can just rock up to any of them and have a look, kind of thing. So yeah, I just for whatever reason just haven't done those yet. So it was nice. Yeah. We were going to kind of knock a few of those out the day before Bondstars, weren't we?
Definitely. I even had a bit of a sneaky mission before I met you guys. So I went to Sherwood House in Denham. I was staying in Denham, and obviously Sir Roger's old gaff, which it was a bit like the gates were closed, so I didn't want to sort of sneak over the fence and climb in and stuff. And I was hoping that if someone had been in the garden, I would have, had a little chat and stuff. Because they actually filmed there really recently, didn't they, for the one show, which is quite cool. But I thought I'd check it out. And that was kind of cool. A little.
So what did you get to see then? So did you just literally see the gate at the end and not a lot else?
You could see a bit of the house, but it's such a big place. I don't know if you remember when it was up for sale. I had a little look on Zoopla, and it's got like the swimming pool, the tennis courts, and the house itself is huge. But it's like, if you're going to live anywhere, man, I reckon that would be a pretty sweet place to, yeah, totally. It's so nice all around there as well, which is pretty cool. So I kind of stopped off there and just to check it out, because you never know.
Very nice. You need a good few mil, don't you, because it's obviously
4.5.
4.5 million to get Roger's house. If anybody feels like picking it up and donating it to the JBR, we'll be happy to take it.
Which is actually $500,000 cheaper than it was last year. So, you're getting yourself a bargain.
Total bargain. Big time. Nicely done. Wicked. So, first location of the day then was Shrublands, obviously from Thunderball there. And it is one of those that looks exactly the same, except there's one key difference, which is one of the most awful paint jobs I've ever seen in my life. It's this sort of terracotta, sort of gross thing. So we had a quick look at that, didn't we? You jumped in Paul Jameson's car and did a little reenactment of Bond leaving. You had Dobson, wasn't it? Dobson played Patricia Fearing, and you played Bond, and you did your little speed away in the car there. Another time, another push, which was very good. Have we put that up on Facebook yet? You did, didn't you?
I think it did. Yeah. I didn't even do it in the Connery accent, which is pretty bad. But we sort of had a good play around, which was good. So what did it feel like when you first saw it, like for the first time? Were you like, oh man, this is really cool, there it is? Or was it like, oh man, they need to get like a power washer?
It was the second one. It was like, it was like, there it is. And then, it doesn't look quite right. But my favorite ones are the ones that, like I've often said, look exactly the same as they did. So Shrublands is just one you sort of stand there for a bit, and it's just obviously the front bit, and you kind of see the spot where Connery would have parked his DB5 and then sped off and all the rest of it. And then there's not a lot else, is there? Because it's not like there's any other angles to look at or anything. It's just that front bit. But worth a visit nonetheless. You've got to get your picture outside of Shrublands for sure.
Now, speaking of locations that look exactly the same, following Shrublands, we went over to St. Giles Church. Now, you must have rocked that one, Tommy. What do you think?
Yeah, obviously St. Giles Church from the opening sequence of For Your Eyes Only, where Bond goes to visit Tracy's grave, and that one looks exactly bang on, to the point where, I know you guys did this before, obviously, but we were looking up on YouTube and watching the sequence and looking at all the angles, and we obviously worked out exactly where Tracy's grave would have been back in the day. So you can, like, obviously all the surrounding graves are obviously still identical to what they'd have been back in 81. And it was cool, man. And the little sort of, I don't even know what you'd call it. The little
archway sort of thing?
Yeah, the archway gate thing where you see the priest stood doing the old spectacles, testicles, wallet and watch, and where the helicopter landed and stuff. And it's actually really nice and peaceful out there, isn't it? It's like, it's very quiet and it was a lovely summer's day. But it's just funny to, like, because those ones where it does look exactly the same, you're kind of standing there and you're seeing the movie play out in your eyes, and then you just look at that exact spot and be like, damn, that's where it is. You almost feel like you're in the film a little bit. Do you know what I mean? As crazy as that sounds. Yeah.
It's really cool. The only thing I was disappointed by is when we did the Fiore's only pre-titles remake, we obviously had a replica of Tracy's gravestone, and when we left, we put it in a patch of grass, had like a rose over it, and made it look like so real. But unfortunately, it wasn't there. So I think weather had kind of eroded it away or something. So that was really cool. And then we went for a really nice walk, didn't we? There was a load of us through these sort of gardens just beside the church. And I don't know if you knew what we were doing, but we were secretly leading you towards like a really good vantage point where obviously we had Stoke Poges in the background, and you're sort of walking along, you turn around and like, there it is. There's the golf course and there's like the clubhouse, and man, how iconic is that?
That's a magical place, that one, obviously, because that is another one that looks identical to what it looks in the film. And we just walk around these little sort of country paths or whatever, and then all of a sudden you just come out and there's this expansive golf course and Stoke Poges off in the distance there. So So it was cool. So obviously we had a little walk around, and then we obviously went in to have afternoon tea as well. We booked that in advance, do a proper classic British afternoon, thing. Yeah. And so jumped in the car, drove around the front, and we recorded the entrance. So if you look on Facebook,
I think we should play that again. I think can we snip that into the episode, because it's so good with a little bit of music. Yeah,
let's do that now. So there we go. So we rock up, and it's one of those things where as soon as you go around that corner, I think you probably hear me in that video going, so you go around that corner, and there's the spot where Goldfinger's rolls would have been parked, and that key scene where Oddjob like throws his hat and crushes the golf ball and all that kind of stuff. It happens right there, and it looks exactly the same. And that's a super magical moment, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's got to be one of the top 10 Bond locations, I think. Yeah. It has to be, out of everything in the world, it is definitely in the top 10, just because so much happens to it as well. Obviously, we got there, we went for a little walk around the grounds. We saw the 18th hole, classic 18th hole. We also went to a couple of other locations. So we went to the Ballroom, which was Bond's sort of hotel room in Tomorrow Never Dies, wasn't it? So that was quite cool.
Absolutely, where he's sitting there with his dicky bow open, drinking his vodka, I think it is, isn't it? Yeah. And then obviously Terry Hatcher comes in. Yeah.
We all did a couple of reenactment shots sitting on the chair.
Absolutely.
Not quite as cool as Fierce, but we thought we'd give it a go. And then after that, we went down to the James Bond corridor, which I don't know if you had heard of that before, but obviously that's got loads of great pictures from the film and from Tomorrow Never Dies as well. Yeah. And that's a really cool bit, isn't it?
Yeah, we stuck those up on the Facebook page as well. So if you haven't seen those, there's like cool sheets from Goldfinger and Tomorrow Never Dies, and like just some of the stuff I'd not seen before, just hanging up in the hallway there. But it's one of those that's just got that magical feel to the air, because you don't get more classic than Goldfinger. If you ask the average person in the street what is the best Bond film, they are probably going to say Goldfinger. Or even if you just said name a Bond film to the average person in the street, Goldfinger is probably the one that they would go for. So, especially when you go outside and you see that 18th hole, and there's the famous picture of Bond and Goldfinger, stood there on that last patch with the back corner of Stoke Poges in the background of the shot, and it's like it's right there, and it's identical. And that's always a good time. But yeah, man, what a magical place. I suppose the only reason I'd never done that before is I just assumed, because obviously a membership at Stoke Poges is ridiculously expensive. It's like 10 grand a year or something, isn't it, just to be a member to go and play on the courses. But you can just go there if you want and have a little bit of afternoon tea, which is obviously what we did. So it was like, you can still enjoy it without the big bucks. So that was nice. But yeah, it was cool. And what was a nice little magical touch with, so if anybody who doesn't know what afternoon tea is in the UK, it's not just having a cup of tea. Basically they bring you out on these like tiered plates, like some little sort of finger sandwiches, and then you get some like cakey things and scones and all the rest of it, and obviously you get a nice cup of tea as well, which is always a bonus. But they also had Vespa martinis on the menu, didn't they? So we had a couple of those.
To have that, yeah. And obviously cucumber sandwiches. You got to have a cucumber sandwiches this afternoon tea, as Hugo Drax would say. So that was cool. Yeah, a couple of Vespa martinis, and it was really good. So I think we should give a good shout out to Rory, Darren, Brian, Paul, and Uwe, who joined us for a nice afternoon tea. And we had a little drink outside as well, which was nice, wasn't it, in the sun?
It was a lovely afternoon. We had a Bond 25 script meeting, didn't we? We kind of like pretended we were the bosses, and I was Barbara, you were Michael G, and then we kind of discussed our ideas about what we'd have. But that's probably for another episode, I would say.
I think definitely, yeah. So that was Saturday then. Saturday was great. Obviously, we sort of had a nice time to chill in the evening, and then Sunday came around, Tom, and it was like, were you excited when you woke up Sunday morning thinking, man, Pinewood,
Always.
Bondstars.
Yeah, it's like I've
gotta
said
happen,
before.
isn't it?
Like I know there's some of the hardcore that have been going to Bondstars for like years and they never miss it and they've just been going all the time. And I do wonder whether comes a point where it doesn't become cool. Like not cool is the wrong word, but it doesn't become as exciting. Do you know what I mean? Where the magic rubs off a little bit, wears off. But it hasn't happened for me yet. That's for sure. It was kind of, as soon as you rock in and you drive past that old fashioned gate with the two arches and you're like, oh man, that's where Connery would have driven in back in the day, and Roger and all that. And then you obviously go around into Heatherden Hall and it's like, one of the rooms there we discovered this time was Kananga's office that was used in Live and Let Die.
That was so cool, wasn't
obviously, we've been there before. We never knew that. So that was Kananga's office in there. And it is Spectre Island. It is that scene in From Russia With Love. And that's another one that, apart from all the equipment for the Spectre training camp, looks identical to what it did, or more or less identical to what it did in From Russia. There's always just that magical little buzz in the pit of your stomach when you're kind of walking around there, and I think that was my fourth time to Pinewood for a Bondstars event. It's certainly not worn off for me yet.
No, exactly. I was saying, like, to some of the guys who were there, just seeing that Pinewood Studio sign before you even get there sort of gets, shiver down your spine sort of thing. Yeah. But again, awesome day, like, in terms of the weather. It was lovely. So we rocked up, we met everyone. Again, like quite a lot of the JBR family were there, which was fantastic. And obviously got to meet a few new faces who we hadn't met before. And we kind of kicked things off after sort of the, hellos and everything. They replayed a bit from Sir Roger's memorial, didn't they? So now that, like, I was obviously really, really lucky enough to attend that last year, and it was so moving. It was incredible. And I tell you what, Tom, when I was watching this video, I had like a tear in my eye, and then I thought to myself, I've kind of seen it already, but I'm still feeling sad. Maybe I should man up. And then I looked to the left of me and I looked to the right of me, and everyone else had a tear in their eye as well. It was so moving, wasn't it?
There wasn't a dry eye in the house, was there really? Yeah, it was so nice. It was just basically, it was about an hour long, and Gareth was saying it's just something that the family are keeping. It's not ever going to be released in any way, shape or form. So it was kind of a nice little thing to see. And he was like, don't take any photos, or please don't record any of it, blah, blah, blah. So it was cool, and it was obviously taking place in that exact room that we were in. And it was Gareth on stage and a few people coming up, like Joan Collins came up and made a speech and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was really lovely. It was like lots of kind of like photo montages of Roger throughout his career and stuff, and stories about things he'd done over the years. But I think the thing that got me the most was just towards the very end, where they basically called up Roger's family, his two sons and his daughter and stuff. And she said a couple of words, but you could see like all of them had like tears streaming down their face. And then they had like a special gift for Gareth, who'd obviously organised the same event. You could see Gareth, the waterworks start coming, and it was like, oh man, like I was proper bubbling, man. It was hard enough getting through all those listener voicemails when we did the Roger Goodbye episode, but like this one was just like, oh, that was tough, man.
It really was, yeah. And thanks, big shout out to Gareth for obviously letting everyone watch it while we were there, because did you feel like you were that was kind of the only strange thing though, wasn't it? But like so they showed sort of obviously montage clips of Sir Roger as Bond or the Saint and everything like this. And then afterwards you're not quite sure whether to clap or not, because on the day, obviously, you see people clapping, you hear people clapping, but because we're not there, but you almost feel like you are there, I didn't know whether to clap or not, and I think some people were going to clap and then didn't, and it was a bit of a strange thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, but really cool, really cool.
What a really nice way to open the day, just to kind of have a little glimpse into that event and stuff. But totally. Yeah, that was cool. So who was there, Chris? Tell me, who were the guests?
Okay, so in terms of the Bond alumni from the film, we had Maddy Smith, we had Gloria Hendry, Louis St. Just, who was wicked. He was really cool. He was basically one of the tribal dancers from the voodoo scenes in the film, but he was great. We'll obviously hear a bit from him later. Yeah. Behind the camera, we had Glen, we had John Glen, we had Alan Tompkins, we had Vic Armstrong, Elaine Sherrack, Brian Smithies, Graham Hartstone, and Ian Wingrove, which is pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It was cool, man. And like I say, we got some footage of most of those guys having a chin wag in the Q&A, which we'll play in a little bit. But I tell you what, it was really nice. There was kind of there was a really nice moment during Maddy's interview that you'll get to see and hear later, where she was obviously telling the story of what it was like being on set that day with the magnetic watch and the zip and all that kind of stuff. And she was like, and there was this poor man, like, you know, lying on the floor underneath me with the piece of string. And then we heard this voice across the other side of the room going, "That was me." And she was like, "Oh no," and then jumped up and they had a little hug. And she had no idea after all these years who that guy actually was. And there he was sitting right in front of her. Yeah,
so that was pretty sweet.
It was such a cool moment, man. And so we managed to capture that on film and on audio as well. So you'll get to see that in a bit.
That's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was some people that obviously, what I'm starting to appreciate more and more of is, you know, we've heard from the John Glens and the Peter Lamont and stuff of the world and all the rest of it. And, you know, when you watch the DVD extras and all that kind of stuff, it's always those guys chatting, and that's great. And you love to hear those stories, and it's obviously amazing to have them on the podcast. But what I'm really starting to appreciate more is those sort of more minor players, those people who are doing the not as glamorous tasks as, say, directing the film or the art department or whatever. And there was a few people like that. Elaine Track, who was the continuity person, and she was talking about her job of like, okay, I'd have to sit down and I'd make a note of where that cup was on the table, and I'd have to make sure that was in the same spot, and blah blah blah. And it's just all those things that you don't really think about all that often. You're always kind of thinking about, I wonder how they did that stunt or whatever. But sometimes the most simple things of like the person whose job that is to make sure everything looks right, and that person's wearing the green hat and not the blue hat this time, and things like that. That's really interesting, I found.
No, totally, man. Totally. It is good. And there were a couple of people like that, just sort of unsung heroes, and perhaps some people who you might not have heard of before or whatever, but everyone's got stories. Everyone, you know, who worked on the film in any aspect, it's for us, obviously, it's still super interesting, isn't it? So, I think finding those sort of listening to stories from those sort of people is great. Yeah. But before the Q&A, we had a wicked tour around Pinewood Gardens, with Dave Worrell giving a tour. And that was cool, wasn't it? I know there was one particular part that you were keen on, where I'm not sure if our listeners know, but obviously, there was lots of stuff from Russia with Love, the pre-titles and all of that sort of stuff. There was a bit from The World Is Not Enough, where Renard comes out of the cave and he's holding the hot rocks. We got to that. But there was also there's a bit with Pussy Galore and Connery under the parachute at the end was filmed there.
Where Red Grant gets his massage. That's kind of more or less the same spot, isn't it?
Exactly.
Them underneath the parachute at the end of Goldfinger and Red Grant getting his massage is literally the same patch of ground. They're maybe like 3 or 4 meters to either side of each other, kind of thing.
Which is really cool, isn't it? But there was another patch of grass, which I think is probably your favourite bit. It's only like probably only like a foot square patch of grass, where in Die Another Day you see Bond sort of what did he put into the ground? Was it like
it
was like that
you're
knife?
Asking the wrong geezer.
It was like a knife.
Was it like a
he puts a
mine
knife
or
and then
something?
I think it's like a knife and then it's got an antenna in it or something, hasn't it? Or something like that. Yeah. But anyway, that little patch of ground, I could see you sort of, it was like hello turf for you, wasn't it? And you were bowing down to it.
That's it. I do find things like that quite interesting though, in the sense that in that sequence, he's obviously surfing into his mission, which obviously was filmed miles and miles away. And there's just this one little split second thing. It's probably not even 2 seconds of screen time where you just see him stab this thing into a patch of grass. And that was filmed on the back lot of Pinewood there. And it's just I always find that interesting of like, you know, you just would never notice that in a million years when you watch a film like that. But it's funny that obviously they were recorded. It was Hawaii, wasn't it? Those surfing scenes, is that right? That they recorded that?
The actual surfing bit itself was Hawaii, but the beach was in the UK.
The beach was in the UK.
Yeah, and then obviously that little bit was in Pinewood. But what I love as well is they make use of everything they've got. So every bit of ground, you know, they use it. And why not? Because obviously if the studios are next door, why not make use of everything you can? And it's particularly for like little insert shots or stuff. It's like, why don't we use this? And like we mentioned with Kananga's office inside the, one of the rooms in Heatherton Hall. Brilliant. Just stick a couple of palm trees outside the window. And a bit of sound effects and you're done, aren't you?
So, it's funny. That's genius. It's funny. Like both of us have definitely been in that room before, and we just had no idea that was Kananga's office. Which is
I remember actually someone last year flagging it up on it might have been Uwe actually flagging it up on the tracks. So I remember it from last year, but that was after we'd been. I think last time. So yeah
absolutely. And then of course there's the room kind of. So basically the way they set up Pinewood is the Bondstars thing is in that kind of main room. Which you'll see in a second when we play the video. That's where kind of you sit and have your dinner and all the tables are and the guests are interviewed on stage. And then there's another room that's more or less identical but flipped around the other way with the stage down the end. So that's like where Cue the Music played last time and all that kind of stuff. And that is also the room in A View to a Kill where Zorin and Mayday are having their little wrestling match kind of thing, their little kickboxing sesh. And again, it's kind of like, it looks a little bit different, but then when you compare it to the film, like you see all this sort of ornate balcony work in the background and all that kind of stuff. So it's, it's cool, man. I like those little things of like when my favorite are the ones that look identical, but also I like the ones where it's kind of understated and then you have to spot a little clue in the background. You're like, oh yeah, there it is. Like maybe the carpet's different or the walls are a different color or something, but you see a little feature in the background that kind of gives it away to what it actually is. That's a cool feeling. And yeah, man, I've not the magic of going to Pinewood and walking around in those halls and just kind of seeing that. I don't think it's ever going to get old for me. I don't know. What do you think?
No, it's the same here. It's the same here, definitely. And the good thing as well, we had a couple of people who, it was their first timers. Paul Jameson had never been to Pinewood before, and Becca as well, I think. And it's you're still feeling as sort of excited as you know when the first time you visited. And I every year, if you work there every day, maybe if you're a road sweeper around the roads of Pinewood, or if you're doing whatever, but you went there every day, it might seem like work sort of thing. But I don't know. I still maybe not.
Yeah,
we'll just have to get a job there and find out.
Yeah, I suppose that becomes the danger if it's your job to be there. Then I feel like that's when things like that kind of creep in, where it just kind of starts to feel like work. But yeah, as a fan that you get to visit once a year or whatever, I think that's always just going to be magical, because you always have that thing of like, obviously when they did the screening of Live and Let Die as well, and we walked through to the John Barry Theatre, you can see the 007 stages you come in and all that kind of stuff, and it's just your mind just goes to who would have walked down those halls back in the day, and you just you walk past the sign for Goldfinger Avenue and you're like, that's where they crashed the DB5 down there, you know what I mean? It's just that's just a magical feeling that it happened on that spot,
Totally, man. Totally. Cool. Okay. So should we crack on with some of the Q&As? Who's the first clip then? Who are we going to listen to first?
Let's start with the absolute sweetheart that is Maddy Smith. God bless her. Let's have a listen to her interview.
Your scene, of course, was much different because you were in bed.
But I was here as well.
You were here as well.
I was also not on location. I was here in bed, yes, Gareth. And the cupboard.
And of course, the love scenes are never terribly romantic to film, are they?
No, they're never romantic. But with Roger, everything was romantic. Just being with him was romantic. It depends who you're with. He had nice breath and a very nice body.
He always said you had nice breath. Well, he always used to say, she had the most wonderful eyes.
Big eyes.
But obviously it's not romantic because, as the people who work on the films here will know, the special effects department and the art department, undressing a lady with a magnetic watch doesn't work on screen.
No, it doesn't. And Roger remembered it rather worse than I did, which is I thought there was one person under my legs, but there were apparently 2 or 3 people. It was you!
Amazing.
Sorry about that.
No, I think for old time's sake, perhaps we should reenact it. You got all the best jobs.
You did, and I hated that dress so much. I was horrible, thick, thing, wasn't it? And I didn't need extra, but they gave me extra in there, plastic extra, you know.
Well, we'll talk to you in a minute about the dress. But also, of course, you had the wonderful Seiko wristwatch in the scene, because that was very new at the time, wasn't it?
Absolutely, it was. But of course, it wasn't magic, was it? No.
So you had the Seiko watch and the Rolex watch.
Yes.
And
that's true.
And you had to hide in a wardrobe.
I had to hide in a wardrobe, and then, of course, Emma Money. No, I won't spoil the film. People come in and invade my space with Sir Roger, who was just Roger in those days. Yeah, it was great. I had, I think it's true to say, I had nothing on top, genuinely, when I was in the bed. So I had to quickly get out of the bed. I don't know what I put around myself when I went into the wardrobe. Nothing, I think. I can't remember. Sheet, something? Anybody remember? Sheet. So I sneak into the wardrobe, and then somehow somebody must have put that awful dress on to me because I couldn't get into it. And then of course those people go out, and then Roger undoes the dress with that magic watch, which wasn't magic at all.
This wasn't the first time you'd worked with him on screen.
It wasn't the first time. I was in The Persuaders with that darling man, and Anushka Hempel. And we were pretending to be another lady who was actually, I can't remember her name, lovely anyway. But we were, both of us, vying to pretend to be somebody else. So, and we got caught out most awfully. And we had a terrible argument in it, and I think Roger directed it, didn't he?
And he obviously remembered you when he came.
And he remembered me, and I got the part without auditioning, which is fantastic, yeah.
Did your character have a name at the beginning? Because it's interesting, in the credits of the film, I think you're down as Pretty Lady or Beautiful...
No, Beautiful Girl.
Beautiful Girl. But it's only later on that we discover that she does actually have a name, because Bernard Lee refers to her in the scene as Miss Caruso.
As Miss Caruso, he does actually. So in fact the name did exist, but it wasn't on the credits. And so obviously later, I don't know when it went on DVD or VHS, I don't know, suddenly I was Miss Caruso, wasn't I? And you would remember.
He's getting very excited down now. He's never forgotten.
You are a sweetheart. Well, anyway, it was wonderful. Weren't they happy days? They were so happy. And he and I rolled around in bed together and joked together a lot. And he had shorts on and I had knickers on, and that was about it.
Because he also talks about wearing football socks in some of the love scenes.
Well, it was cold. I can't remember whether he wore socks or not, but we were very close because my head was actually on his chest. So we were relatively warm, but it was freezing. It was January, wasn't it? Bitterly cold. Do you remember? And we were stuck in the corner of that romantic studio. And there wasn't much else in there, was there? It was just us, I think. Yeah, it was just us in the corner.
Yeah. But it's interesting, whenever you had a love scene, there tended to be a lot more crew turn up that day.
It was pretty crowded, wasn't it? But we didn't do anything particularly rude, because Roger would never have done anything that was at all risky, would he? No. And am I right in remembering, I tell this story, was Louisa at the bottom of the bed? Was Louisa, his wife, at the bottom of the bed? She was certainly around. I think she was, peering through those bars.
Ian wasn't looking at the bed, he was looking elsewhere.
Well, obviously, you were looking up my skirt.
He's got his wife here today, we shouldn't tell him this. I've been in trouble.
It's so lovely to see you.
But Roger was the sort of person to put you at ease very quickly, wasn't he?
Oh, completely. He was absolutely adorable. I mean, he really, really was. You know, one sometimes says that lightly, but he really was. I mean, his humour was terrific. I don't know whether you remember, he brought in the cassette. Everything was on cassette in those days, with the demo of the music of Live and Let Die, for us all to come and have a listen, and said, isn't this wonderful? This is going to be a great big hit, which of course it was. Wings. You all know all this. You do. But it was fantastic, so I was among the first to hear it.
So how many days were you on set? I mean, I would imagine it was only 1 or 2 days.
I think, Gareth, you know, I mean, time has passed. I don't want to think how long it was ago, but I think it was about 3 days, wasn't it? Something like that. 3 days, 3.5 days.
Did you probably asked for a few retakes, did you?
get it wrong. I don't think we banged on too much, did we? He infects me, this one. He's so naughty.
Touched you.
He's naughty but nice.
I think I can tell this story actually. I was telling Maddy that when Jane Seymour had her first day on the film, she was very nervous. It was her first film. And Roger could tell that she was very nervous. And of course, the first scene had to be a love scene, didn't it? I mean, you know, talk about the most awkward thing to film on your first day on a new film. And he could tell that she was nervous, so to put her at her ease, he turned very quietly out of the earshot of the crew and he said, Jane, I want to apologise. Firstly, I want to apologise if, during our love scene, I should get an erection. Secondly, I would like to apologise if I don't. But there we have it. Well, thank you very much for offering that little insight.
Oh, it was a pleasure.
And to you, Lewis, too. I mean,
and I'm among friends. Thank you so much.
So, there we go. How cool was that, man? What a lovely moment to capture as well there.
Totally. And like, you could tell just how excited she was. And not obviously Ian as well, but, I like the fact Gareth pointed out that his wife was in the audience as well, just in case.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool stuff. So next interview is from Louis St. Just. So explain, I know we mentioned it earlier, but explain who Louis is going to be, because he's going to be one of those people that aren't immediately recognisable as a main character in the film.
Okay, so he is one of the tribal dancers. Now, he's not Damballa. So Damballa is the name of the dude with the snake, you know, who kills
with
Baines.
The fluffy head thing.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But this guy, he basically, if you watch the film, there's sort of one of the tribal dancers has his shirt off and he does a lot of sort of, he comes up to the post and sort of gyrates around the post. He's on the ground and sort of going crazy. And yeah, the interview is great because we kind of get a bit of a reenactment of that.
Yeah, man, it's wicked. I would recommend, even if you're listening now, go back and watch the YouTube version of this so you can witness that cool moment. But yeah, what a dude. So let's hear what Louis St. Just had to say.
So you see these poor actors sitting there going on a wonderful location and they end up getting the tube to Uxbridge.
Oh, yes! Yes!
We were being bussed to Uxbridge, but it was fun.
So I wanted to ask you, I mean, the scene is only, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes on the screen. How long did it take to film?
It took about 3 weeks for rehearsal and filming and recording.
Because all the dancing, of course, was choreographed, wasn't it?
Yes, it was choreographed. And the gentleman who did the choreography, his name was Jeffrey Holder. Jeffrey Holder. And he was such an easygoing gentleman. When I went for the casting, and he said, "Come over here, my dear." He said, "Now I'm going to show you what you have to do. You know the beats, if you listen to the music, it goes dum, 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 dum. You have to roll your eyes. Dum, 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 dum. Dum, 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 dum. Still got it. Dum, 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 dum. And after we were in the cemetery, we had to meet or to see Baron Cemetery because he was supposed, we were invoking him that scene. He was supposed to rise up from the cemetery at midnight. So there we were, our leader, we were expecting him to come through the graveyard, and then we had to cross ourselves and do all the dancing you saw. Now Roger Moore, Bond, he was in the village and he heard the music and he kept saying, you will see that he's going through the palms. When you're in the mountain, you have to make your way. And he's and then when he saw us in the cemetery, he ran down, and one of my friends said, "What the hell this white man is doing?" And as he tried to reach Roger, he had a machete in his hand Roger kicked the machete out of his hand, and there this Louis had to rush over and pick up the machete, and he gave me a real proper kick in the stomach. So when he kicked me, I think I was the third person to be picked for that kick, because they all could not do the contraction. They were falling over. So when the director saw me, he said, "You come here." I had a shirt. He said, "Get this out of you." That's why I am bare-chested, so you can't miss me. So when he gave me the kick, and then the dancing started going, and then later on they show you that when Baron somebody came up, and then that's goes friendly. So we, the man with the snake, the ladies were obviously before in a chapel in the cemetery, and then because they had something going on with the white woman, so they carried her out of the chapel and threw her to us, and then we had to catch her, and then with the beat of the music we were taking her to be crucified, where the dancer had the snake and the I have to go with this. So when we carried her to be crucified with the snake, so I had to be on the floor. I got the spirit. So then the director told me that if this gentleman, who was a dance teacher in Sweden, had not turned up for the audition, I would have been doing the snake thing. But I enjoyed what I did because it was fun. But the other thing is, when we finished filming this, some of us were so exhausted. When we got back to London, we just went back to bed. But I enjoyed it. It was 3 weeks rehearsal and recording.
So how cool was that, man?
So wicked, so wicked. I loved the way that he was like to Maddy, "Here, can you hold this for me? And can you hold this for me?" And stuff like that. And while he got up to do it, yeah. But you could tell like he's still got so much sort of energy and fun for it. But again, you know, like you mentioned earlier about sort of people with sort of certain jobs which you might not have heard of or know about. Yeah. But even sort of actors or you know aren't in major roles, but they've still got in really cool scenes and stuff like that. It's so interesting to hear about, isn't it?
Yeah, big time, man, big time. Okay, so next up we have Elaine Schreck, who, as we mentioned earlier on, was the continuity person on Live and Let Die. So yeah, this is again one of those kind of like understated jobs, but obviously very, very important. And it's really interesting to hear kind of her process of what she'd have to do on set and stuff. So let's pass it over to Elaine.
Because it used to be called continuity. Nowadays, it's script supervisor. So could you tell us what your role was? Because you worked on a number of Bond films, of course.
Yes, I did. Can you hear me? Yes. I did 6 Bond films, and I very nearly didn't do this one. I'll tell you why in a minute. But for continuity, for example, if we had a set like this, and all you people were here, I would sit up here, make a note of how many tables there were, if I could see, and roughly who was sitting where. Not all of you, of course, but I would try. and to see colours, to a lot of men there in blue or another in something else, and I would have to make a note if the chandeliers were on, if the doors were open, and for every shot that we did, for example, we did a big shot here, showing all of you, and then we'd come in to a little group there. Now, if you move that bottle, which is between you, the camera might say, oh, that's spoiling her face, we've got to get rid of that. I thought, no, you don't. We do it in a different way around, because it would have missed that. It would have been my fault. That's the job. Try to explain that.
Yeah, I think so.
Now, I nearly didn't do Live and Let Die. I was sitting reading the script in my garden, and I suddenly said to my mother, oh, I can't do this film. So she said, why not? And she knew immediately, because there were snakes in it. And I don't like snakes. So she said, well, I'm sure something can be done, you know. Anyway, I came in the next morning to see George Hudson, production manager, and I said, I'm totally sorry, can't do this film. He said, what do you mean? So I said, well, you've got a whole lot of snakes in there, and I don't like snakes. He said, well, we've got a second unit, and maybe the continuity girl on the other doesn't mind snakes. Unfortunately, she didn't. So she did all the snake sequence, and I was let off. So that's how I came to do the film.
Well, you don't know this, Elaine, but we have brought that snake into
I'm off.
But, I mean, obviously, you had to keep tight control on what was happening on the stage, and you would sit next to the camera and obviously speak to the director quite often. Did you have a lot to do with the actors?
Oh, yes. I had to cue them if they didn't know their lines. When they would come and say, can you hear me? You know, I'm not quite sure, what was that, or something like that. First of all, again, with the scene, I would have to know exactly what they were wearing, you know, to make a note of everything, how her hair was done, that you've got the glasses there in the front of you, everything like that. So when we do the scene, we had 3 new actors make notes of everything, because, for example, we might do a scene in here, and they'd go out there 3 weeks later, and they've got to look exactly the same, with glasses like that, and your hair like that. And if it wasn't, they'd say, well, how was she? Did I have this on? I said, yes, you did. Well, no, you didn't. And there again, I made notes of everything. Plus, every shot that we did, I made a note of the lens, the filter. I get that from the camera boys, of course. How many takes we did. The first take might have been rubbish, so we don't want that one. How many prints we made. Smith might have taken 10 shots. We might print 2, 5, and 10. Make a note of that. And then after all that, I would go back to my desk and type out a report for the editor. So that he knew exactly how much was shot on that scene. It might be a few lines or something like that. And then he would have a copy of what he expected his rushes to have for the next day. And also, of course, copies went to the production office, and I kept a copy as well. So, you know, I didn't have much time to myself. And actors were great, because they would come sometimes and say, was I any good in that shot? And you'd say, yes, it was fine. You know? A lot of actors are very insecure, and they like someone to say, that was fine, or you know, it'd be better next time if you feel like that. But no, it's a very congenial job, if tiring, because when you finish, for example, on location, you might have been up 5 or 6 in the morning and gone out, you know, and shot and come back, and then the camera boys would, you know, clean their equipment and everything. But very often, because I might have been in the desert or, you know, up a river or something, hadn't got time to type everything, so I would have to come back at night and type until I'd finished, because my report, plus a daily report of what happened during the day, like a minute-to-minute diary. You know, 8 o'clock in the morning to 8:30 rehearsing, or 8:30 to 9, scene so and so and so. Minute-to-minute diary of what we'd done during that day had to be handed in next morning to the production office. So that's the job.
Okay, cool. So that was good to hear from Elaine. And next up we have is Mr. Vic Armstrong.
What an all-time legend this geezer is. It's so cool to see that dude in the flesh, because not only obviously has he been a massive part of Bond, but he's been a massive part of, the Indiana Jones series and all sorts of other
Superman
stuff.
And all that stuff.
Like a proper living legend in the stunt world. So always a pleasure.
And you know what? He's just super cool anyway, isn't he? He just looks cool as well. And he's rocking the shades on the stage and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But man, absolute legend.
Yeah.
So should we have a listen to what Vic has to say?
Well, let's do it.
Obviously, you were one of several stunt performers on this film before you became a second unit director. And it must have been great fun because, as everybody's saying, it feels like a family team coming together to make one of these movies.
No, absolutely. The Bond was the pinnacle of anybody's career, I think, in those days to work on. And it was relatively early on in my career. I'd started in 65, and 66 I worked on Unit twice, and then about 69 I think we did on the Majesty's Secret Service. So this would be my third time on a Bond, but it's still very exciting. And actually I was on it for a relatively short sequence, really. It was the fight above the shark pen with Yaphet Kotto, where he ends up getting the air pellet put in his mouth and exploding. But for me, the most exciting part about it was actually the learning curve of the whole thing, because as I say, I was relatively young in a short time in the business, and I got the chance to work with an incredible stunt coordinator called Bob Simmons, who did You Only Live Twice, with at the time, my future father-in-law, George Leach. But Bob rehearsed the fight in this shark pen with me. The company was still away on location, which actually shot it on D stage in the studios here. But the whole learning curve of breaking down a fight, where the actors were going to go into it, where the edits were going to come in, how we do the actual stunt and all that sort of stuff, for me was invaluable. And it's lessons I learned on that I took on for the rest of my career. And so for me, that was one of the most exciting things. Of course, working on a Bond was tremendous. But as with all stunts and things, nothing ever goes according to plan. And we'd rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed. And I had to stand on this platform, which was raised above the shark pen, with solitaire rather. Both of us, it's all diamonds and jewels. With solitaire, and we were both tied up to the top of it, and then my magic watch would cut the rope free, and I'd bend down, do a handstand on the bar, and do a sort of full body swing across, and then drop the rest of the way to the ground. And we'd rehearsed it, and everything was good, and anyway, we'd come to the first take. When I did it, the platform I was on, when my body came over in a full arc, there's a tremendous lot of G-force. The platform twisted, and of course I dropped a couple of feet further than anticipated and went straight into the cement with my heels, which was absolutely agonising. But in those days you just had to bite it and grin it and bear it. Luckily it was the last thing of the day. So I went into the toilet there in the block and got toilet paper and rolled it up and put them under my insteps to just try and take the weight off my heels, because I cracked the heels. And it was absolute agony. So I went home and dosed up with painkillers like we all did in those days. And I did upstairs on my hands and knees because I couldn't actually use my feet. But anyway, the next day we came to work, and again, painkillers and whatnot, and we did it, and it worked. They reinforced the platform, and we did it again. And I must say, I landed like a butterfly with sore feet, which I literally was. Anyway, we landed, did the landing. And then thankfully the fight was such, the way Bob Simmons had organised it, it was mainly between Yaphet Kotto and Roger, thank goodness, so I didn't have to do much jumping around and punching because I was still very footsore. But to me it was just an amazing learning curve, and I look back at From Russia with Love and things like that Bob Simmons had done, the fight in the railway carriage, and lots of his work over the years I've emulated and tried to copy the style and everything else. So that's the most I remember of it, is the pain in my heels and the learning curve of everything I learned about fights and editing and that sort of thing.
But you still came back to do more, so you obviously didn't hold it against the producers or the special effects people who didn't get that thing working properly.
It was just one of those things, and what's it happens.
Elaine, is there a particular outstanding memory of working on this film? Is there one scene perhaps, or one location?
A thing happened one day when we were in the crocodile farm. We were stuck in this island, and the man who owned the farm said we cleared the water away, and everything else, no crocodiles. Well, of course, I didn't believe this. Anyway, I'm sitting there on my little stool and not looking at what I was supposed to be looking at all, but looking at the water. And suddenly I thought, there's something there. And he said, oh, don't matter. No matter at all. It's Daisy. Don't worry. There was the crocodile coming along the water. Daisy. I remember that.
Crocodiles and snakes. Crocodiles and snakes.
I don't mind crocodiles.
Don't mind. But actually, a lot of that, Ross Cananga's farm, John Fenner here, there's this whole article in the brochure about finding the location. And I think he was very sort of blasé about the crocodiles. He said, oh, they're fine, they won't harm you, you know. And if they do, you just put a pencil between their eyes and it'll kill them. No. But anyway, thank you so much for both sharing a few memories. It's always nice to hear about the different sides of the camera. We're delighted you could join us. Would you please thank a lady?
Cool. That little injury at the end there sounded nasty, didn't it?
So bad. I mean, initially you think, right, so that's really cool. Stuntmen have, great job. And you think about, obviously he was, taking place of Bond when he's hanging off that winch and sort of does that flip over with his hands. And you're like, oh, that's really cool. And obviously in the film, it's over water. And if you kind of slipped or fall, you're in water and you're kind of okay, apart from the shark. But obviously when they're sort of filming it, he said it sort of fell and then he dropped onto concrete and man. It sounded so painful, isn't it? But yet they carry on working, pop a couple of painkillers, and he's back in work the next day.
Wonder.
You know what? I don't know if.
Go on.
Yeah, I don't know if that would happen. I don't know if that would happen these days. I think they're a bit more safety conscious. Yeah. I think people would say, "Oh, mate, you got your insurance. Take a couple of weeks off or whatever. We might see you back. We might have to get someone in to replace you." Yeah. Back then, men were men in terms of like, and women were women in terms of the stunt world, in terms of like, you got to be pretty hard and you take it on the chin. Yeah, exactly. Which is crazy.
I often think about that, and I often think about the whole incident with the helicopter crash in From Russia with Love, where Terence Young is literally submerged in a helicopter at the bottom of a lake that's crashed into the lake, and he literally gets himself out, swims to the surface, and then just goes straight back to work. I mean, that just is not a thing these days. No. I can imagine a production shutting down for a week after an incident like that, or maybe even
all
a month,
news and media and everything going crazy about it, and like when you hear stories like that, you kind of wish that people were a bit more like that these days. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's like these football players that just trip over for no reason and pretend they're...
Exactly. There we go.
But there you go.
So who we got next?
What man? Next up, we have Mr. Graham Hartstone. So Graham Hartstone is an interesting one. He's got a very, very long career. And he's another one of those where that name wouldn't be familiar to most kind of Bond fans, would it? But so tell me, what was Graham's role throughout the
So he's worked within the sound department and various sort of different roles, which he'll obviously just talk about. But one thing that's crazy, he was with Bond from Dr. No all the way through to Die Another Day. Like, so he was way back at the start all the way through. Which, when he said that, I thought, well, that's amazing. Obviously the longevity and working on every Bond film. But B, I thought, he still looks pretty young. Yeah. Like, how he must have been like 10 when he worked on Dr. No or something. Yeah. He still looked really good for his age. So I was like, wow, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So let's, without any further ado then, let's hear from Graham.
Yes, indeed. On the sound side?
On the sound, I was very privileged to be a permanent member of staff here at Pinewood in the sound department for 44 years. Starting on production, in fact, as a cable monkey. And I did actually spend a few days being a cable monkey on Dr. No. I was a boom operator for artist tests for From Russia with Love. And it's been said before, but working on a Bond is very much like being in a family, and we all in the sound department considered ourselves part of the family. Cubby was a great boss, and we had everything to do for the Bond in the sound. We also had to do re-recorded dialogue. We had to shoot all the footsteps, follies as they're called, and we had to transfer all the rushes when they came in from location. So I had bits to do on just about every Bond film. And then in the 70s, we had to get rid of the production crew, so I went into post-production And one of the first films I worked on was this one, as a dubbing mixer, or now called re-recording mixer. The film was mixed in mono, obviously, and we would be supplied with well in excess of 100 different sound effects, soundtracks fitted in sync to the picture. And we could mix together, we had 12 channels. Nowadays there are about 500 channels, but we had 12 channels, so we could take 12 of these sounds at a time, 12 of these groups of tracks, so we put together all the speedboats, shall we say, all the gunshots, all the explosions. We'd have to mix them down like that until we got 12 premixes that contained all the sounds in the movie. That includes obviously the dialogue and the music. And then the three of us would sit down with 4 faders each and mix the reel in real time to the picture in a room like a cinema. And we had to write down what levels we had to play stuff at and what we had to do, and rehearse. We'd rehearse for a day, half a day rather, and then we'd start to record it onto the tape. But you had to remember, bearing in mind, you had to remember everything we had to do for 10 minutes. And we used to work extremely long hours. I remember one time towards the end of the mix, it must have been the last reel, where Kananga gets blown up in the underground cave. And we'd been working long, it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and we just couldn't get it right. One of us always messed up because we were just so tired. So we just, I forget who it would have been. It might have been Cubby in there, or it might have been Guy. He said, just take a break, guys, take a break. So we did, we stopped and we walked around the studio in the middle of the night, and fresh air, came back again, and got it first time next time. So that's the sort of thing that used to go on, mixing for films. And we also have to bear in mind that it is the last creative process that any director goes through. When it leaves the dubbing theatre, the mixing theatre, there are no more changes made. So they're like giving birth to their baby at that time, and a lot of them can get very nervous. In fact, all they can see when they get into that theatre is all the things they wish they'd done differently, whether they had another take or cut it differently. And they want us in the sound department to fix it.
You mentioned dubbing, so you have a number of the actors and actresses come in to re-record their dialogue that perhaps, I don't know, there's a bit of background noise or it didn't quite work on set properly.
That's right, yeah. That was, in those days it was called looping, so sentences would be made up into a loop, would go round and round, just repeating and repeating, and the actor would have their original recording, which would have had the noise on it, in their headphones, and a cue that went across the screen to tell them when the sentence started, and then they have to say it in the theatre over and over again until they got it right. And then we'd keep that, and that would be laid into the dialogue tracks for the final mix.
And of course all this really took place after the film was finished.
After the film finished, yes. And the bit that we did in the dubbing theatre was you had to match then this perfect, pristine recording done in a quiet dubbing theatre with no room acoustic of any sort. We have to match that in very often to other lines that haven't been post-recorded, and make it all sound as though it's coming in the same place with perspective and room acoustic.
Sounds very, very complicated.
Yeah, it is. And of course, if you take away the original soundtrack, you've lost all the movements, the footsteps, the cuts up and down, and the atmosphere, the birds singing, whatever. You've lost everything. So everything has to be replaced if you replace the dialogue.
Gosh. And how many Bond films did you work on?
Well, in some way or other, just about all of them. This was the first one that I was in post on, and I worked on them all subsequently up until Live and Let Die. No, Die Another Day, sorry. Die Another Day was the last one I worked on. The last of the Pierce Brosnan ones.
Quite a CD.
Yeah.
Well, thanks ever so much, Graham Hartstein, ladies and gentlemen, for sharing a few of these memories.
Okay, cool to hear from Graham there. Now, next up, we have a little bit of a double act in the sense that we have Ian Wingrove, who was the man that put his hand up and said, "That was me," when Madeleine was talking about the guy lying on the floor underneath her dress for the magnetic zip scene, and Brian Smithies as well. So talk to me about these guys. What aside from the Madeleine Smith scene, what were these guys' involvement in Bond?
So a lot of these guys, they were sort of working on effects and miniatures. I think Brian worked on quite a few miniatures with Derek Meddings and stuff like that. And you know, in these are obviously old school effects, so no sort of CGI, nothing like that. It's stuff like sort of all in camera effects and stuff, which is, again, you just don't get these days, do you? It's all, everyone's like, oh, it doesn't matter, we'll fix it in post, we'll add that little bit of lightning, or we'll move that tree over there, or whatever. Obviously, you couldn't do that back then. But yeah, some really great stories they had as well. So should we have a listen?
Absolutely, let's go for it.
But I mean, Ian, Maddy talks about the dress there, so I have to ask you. She said it was the most hideous dress with the most difficult zip to undo. So how did you have to do it? You know, what did you do?
Basically, just with a piece of fishing line.
Use the microphone. No.
My hands.
Use the microphone.
Press the button.
You speak into it.
With a fishing line, or as Americans would call it, monofilament.
And so you literally attach some fishing line to the inside of the zip, put your head under her dress, and pulled it down.
Yes, simple as that. And Derek Meddings, our specialist, who is our boss, was standing there directing us, telling us what to do. I don't know what else to say.
But can you talk about some of the other effects then? Because you were what's known as a physical effects man, in terms that you were doing it on the stage floor, weren't you? It wasn't digital, it wasn't...
that's correct, because basically digital didn't exist in those days.
So what were some of the shots that you had to work on in the film? Do you remember any of the scenes?
Any particular scene?
Well, anything that sticks out in your mind.
Well, many different things. One was the big explosion of a tank landing craft, which is in a place just outside New Orleans. That took us quite a long time to get ready. One was working with Brian, and we worked on the poppy field, didn't we?
Yeah, so Brian, you were involved in lots of the model work on the film.
Yes, I tended to make all the models and prepare them ahead of time.
Because there are lots of shots that people won't know were actually models, and the whole poppy field explosion was a model.
Poppy field, yes, and there's an amusing story attached to that, because in Russia's having shot it, we had the run-up in camera because we were shooting at high speed to slow the action down so the scale was there. And we were sitting in Russia the next day, and there was Cubby and who's the director?
Sorry?
Who's directing?
Guy Hamilton.
Guy Hamilton sitting there, and they said, no, that doesn't work. Because we left the run-up to the film before we reached speed, before action was given. And so we had the run-up where it went from overexposed right up to the correct exposure. And then we did the shot. There was bangs and everything going off. And then you had the run-off at the end as it slowed down, and we then cut. And next day, Cubby and sat there and said, no, it's not going to work. We need to shoot it again. So Derek and I came out of the theatre, and Derek said, that was fine, there's nothing wrong with that. So Derek disappeared down to the cutting rooms and chopped off the lead up and used only the bit of film that was going to be needed. And he got the sound crew to put some bangs on it. Put the same bit of film through Russia's next day, and Cubby and Cubby and Guy came out, turned to each other and said, now that's movie making. And this is what it all is, it's all illusion.
Yeah, smoke and mirrors and lots of explosions. So Ian, on a typical Bond film, what sort of explosives would you use and how many would you have under your control? I would imagine it's probably equivalent to a small army.
We'd have a lot of different types of explosives depending on what the shot is called for. Some we would source locally, some we'd have to ship in, depending on where we were. But you were asking me earlier on, can you think of any other things? Two quite, which from my point of view were quite amusing, were the two scenes. One was with the bus, and we had to put the top deck of the bus. We shot the bus, the top deck coming off the bus, and then we had to put that top deck back onto the police car. And the police cars, all the action vehicles and stunt vehicles, were next year's Chrysler models, if I remember correctly. They hadn't yet been released on the market. And it was my job to put the bus top onto the police car. And then the next day, I had to drive this through the narrow country lanes in Jamaica out to the location, which was quite a job on its own. And eventually, when we got it on the location, we obviously shot it going down the road and then into the swamp. It was left in the swamp 2 or 3 days, maybe a little bit longer, and then Russia's clearance, they gave clearance, yes, you can get it out. We got it out, took it back to the workshops, took the top deck off, steam cleaned it, and then started the engine up and off it went. It was unbelievable, we couldn't believe it. So that became our personal transport around places like Montego Bay. The production never did really find out because the colour of the police car exactly matched the police force's cars in Montego Bay. And the police there used to think it was a hoot because we used to go through Montego Bay with the sirens going. And the other car incident was Sheriff J.W. Pepper's car, which you saw when the boat went into the car, and I think was it somebody said to J.W. Pepper, "You now got a boat car," and it was once again it was my job to put the boat into the car before it went out to the location, which was quite a hard job actually. Those old American cars were really tough, really well constructed. Any case, we done this and we put it on the low loader, took it out to the location, and it was just hilarious taking it out to the location because through New Orleans, people were just open mouthed seeing this state trooper's car go through with a boat sticking out of it. It was really funny. We almost brought New Orleans to a stop, I think.
Cool, man. Some cool stories from those two. So it's time for our final interview clip of the day, which is from Rosie Carver herself, Gloria Hendry, who is, she's got such a cool charisma about her, hasn't she, Gloria? Like when you walk around, and obviously the kind of guests are always milling around with the fans at these Bondstars events, and as you'd walk past, you'd hear her kind of telling stories to people as you walk past, and she's one of those that's just got that sort of energy and buzz about her. You know what I mean? It's always like happy to talk and very like positive energy and stuff. So
totally,
yeah. It's
and we got a really nice picture with her as well, didn't we? A JBR sandwich with Rosie Carver, which was pretty cool. But she's full of energy as well, isn't she?
Yeah,
really fun to chat to. She was great, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. So then let's hear from Gloria Hendry.
Here just to be with us. So would you please welcome Gloria Hendry. Gloria. I'm sure, Gloria, you never had to do looping because you were perfect on the first take.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did have to do looping. It was fun. It was really different. Looping is not easy to do.
No.
You have to sync with the emotion and sync with the emotion as well as movement. There's movement within the emotion. So you have to get to the feeling of the emotion. And how you do that, you have to feel your way through. And as you sort of sync with yourself, it's almost narcissistic.
It's quite complicated. I mean, these guys are sitting there twiddling knobs. They're a bit faster, love. Yeah, a bit faster.
Right, exactly.
But anyway, I mean, this film is quite important in so much as you trailblazed the way for black actresses in the Bond films, really, didn't you? You were the first black Bond girl. I know in Diamonds Are Forever, one of the the hench girls was black, but you were a Bond girl, a fully fledged Bond girl. And how did that feel? You know, you coming into a Bond film as the first black girl.
Well, first of all, I didn't know anything about Bond. Okay, back in the early 70s, I didn't really know anything about Bond films. I heard about them, but I wasn't into it. So when my manager called me on the phone, he said, I was in California. I left my New York apartment. I had starred in a movie, my first one was The Black Caesar with Fred Williamson, with AIP. And after I did that, I was up to do Hitman with Bernie Casey. And that was American International Pictures. And this was all during the time of independent filmmaking. So I was at the start of independent filmmaking. We slept on floors, to make a long story short, and we had no lunches, we had no dinners, and well, whatever came in the door, you had a sandwich or whatever, a boiled egg or whatever it was, and you only took one take. Everything was done, and it was cheaply done, and you shot a movie in 2 weeks. Or if you went 3 or 4, that's luxury. And the money was very low, if any. And I was at the beginning of that time period. So when I was getting ready after Hitman, I got a phone call from my manager. He said, they want to see you for Bond. What? So they want to see you for a James Bond film, and you have to come back to New York. From September, when I flew out there, just for speculation, I got the Black Caesar in 2 weeks or a week. Anyway, I said, they want to see me, and I heard about Bond. I said, I'm not white, I'm not tall, I'm not blue-eyed, and I'm not Bugsy. And he said, I said, who's paying for this audition? He said, you are. I said, what? I have to fly back to New York to go see Harry Saltzman for this film. He said, Gloria, look, it's the biggest film ever. It'll really make your career. I went. And in the meantime, just to fill you in, we, people of color, were into theater. And if you did any action movie, you were nothing. Among us, you were nothing. You weren't even counted as an actress, because an action film there's no quality there. And on top of that, if you did nude, you were X'd out. And I did nude in Black Caesar. That's the reason why I got it. So anyway, make a long story short, moving forward. So I flew in. I had my New York apartment. I flew in, I got dressed up because I used to model, and I got in my best clothes, and I went to see Harry Saltzman. As I walked in the door, Harry, so this dark, good-looking, mature man with this white hair and these dark eyes. Madam, and I sat down. He said, how was your flight? I said, it was great. It's on the edge of my seat. It was great. Well, how would you like it? Would you be ready in a couple of hours? We need to send you to New Orleans to meet Guy Hamilton and Roger Moore. He said, how soon can you be ready? I said, okay. And I gave him my address, and I left. Just like that. I went back to my apartment. You know, and you have to think about that. During that period of time with women, couches were really there. Okay? So anyway, I said, okay. And when a car came up, it was a limousine. Also, I was the Playboy bunny. So I traveled a lot in limousines among Frank Sinatra and Jillies and etc. in New York. So I knew what it was like. I traveled around with the boys. Anybody here? Mafia? Anyway, I got downstairs and I got in this limousine. I looked around. Couldn't believe it. They had martinis and wine and everything. I'm like, wow. Okay, be cool, Gloria. I got to the airport. The guy had a sign, Gloria Hendry. I said, oh my God. And I got in that. Well, anyway, I got on the plane, first class. I've never flown first class. I landed in Louisiana, and they had a sign up for me, and another limousine with plush lamb on the floor. Madam, would you like a drink? No, thank you. So anyway, we finally got to the French Quarter, the restaurant. Eventually, Guy Hamilton came, and he said, Madam, I've never been called Madam. How old was I? Madam. Anyway, he said, Madam, how was your flight? I said, great. I'm looking around. Okay, where's the script? What do I have to read? Anyway, Roger walked in. I said, become Gloria. That's the saint. Become. You know, okay, be cool. He sat down and we talked, just talked and, you know, we had dinner. And he said, how would you like to go back to the set? And I went back to the set. Would you like to stay over for the weekend? Are you serious? I didn't say that, but in my mind, as being a mature woman, you know, looking back, I was like, no, thank you. I'd like to go home. Couches again. You know what I mean, ladies? You don't stay overnight, and you don't stay at a party after midnight. You know those rooms, you never go in those rooms either. Okay, so I booked the next flight out of here, and I flew back to my apartment, because I had to get back to do Hitman, okay? And I was like starring role. How much money? Maybe $1,500, but it was a starring role. It was, you know, a cut. The beginning of independent filmmaking, black and all of that. This was the Renaissance. You got it? So anyway, I'm not thinking about Bond. I'm thinking about the Renaissance. Okay, so I flew back to California. 2 weeks later, I got a phone call from Lloyd Colbar. He said, you got the film. What? You got the film, so you go and get your gamma globin shot and you get your passport as fast as possible. I was shocked. I read not one line. How did that happen? Anyway, here we are. When I finally had boarded that plane, I flew down to Louisiana. When I got down into Louisiana, there was a limousine and everything for me, and from that moment on, like we said, Bond is a family unit. They treat you like a queen. Everywhere I sat, there was a chair following me. I've never had that. So remember, I slept on floors. We had no lunches, no dinners. It was what they call, it wasn't really union, but it was. The union let us through. To make a long story short, that was the most fabulous film I ever worked on. And they flown my mother in for New Year's Eve and Christmas, first class. My mother never been on first class flights, and she was a factory worker at American Aluminum when I called her. And I said, Mom, you have to come for the holiday with me in Jamaica. Honey, she went around telling all her friends at American Aluminum, and she's the only one. And honey, they were screaming and hollering, "Lottie, get out of here." Anyway, we got down in there, and I had like a butler or a maid. I had everything. They dressed me, they cooked for me. It was just awesome. And I've never been spoiled like that since. Something wrong here. I tell you, and it's been 44 years ago, and I'm still sitting here complaining.
But it was a great part. I mean, it was, Rosie, because it was a fun part, and you know, working with Roger must have been enjoyable.
Roger was such a jewel. In the morning, at 6 o'clock in the morning, of course, they put me in between Harry Saltzman, Cubby Broccoli, Cubby came on and said, brother, Harry Saltzman and Roger Moore's apartment, right there. We were all lined up there, and I was in the middle. And I slipped out in the evenings with the Jamaicans, and I fell in love, too. Yes, but in between time, every time in the morning, we would get up around 6 o'clock. Roger would be swimming this direction, I'm swimming that direction, pushing away the bumblebees. So we swam every morning together, but in different rooms.
And then you came back here to finish some work on the stage, is
Yes, I did. As a matter of fact, they flew me to London, and they tried to figure out how not to kill me. He said, Madam, we really love you. We don't want to kill you. So they said, hold on. We're trying to figure out how not to kill you. So they tried to figure out in the script how to work it so they didn't have to kill me. And eventually they said, we can't change the script, etc. And they had to figure out how to get me in London through the back door, because if I went in the front door, they do not hire me there without others like me in that country. Because it's like, no, you can't come in unless you're a citizen of my hue there, or you're a citizen. So they put it down that I was coming home in Jamaica. That's how I got to Jamaica. Gloria Hendry's coming home. So I came as a Jamaican born into London. I got in through the back door that way here. Yeah, they did a whole publicity stunt. you know, and we met the president of the country and everything. It was just awesome. Oh, how do you like being back home? And I went along with the game. I said, nobody told me about this game. So I went along with him.
Well, I mean, it's certainly great fun. And we should also say, I don't know if you're aware, that as well as being a great actress, Gloria is a great singer. And you're paying tribute to the Bond films tomorrow night in London at the Crazy Coqs, if you've ever been there, it's a jazz club. And Gloria is giving a wonderful evening of Bond jazz.
And Gareth is emceeing.
Oh yeah, she's roped me into introducing her. She's heard I work cheap, you see, this isn't fair. But so if you're in town tomorrow and you'd like to go to the Crazy Coqs, which is just off Piccadilly Circus, and you can come and hear Gloria sing and pay tribute to the Bond songs. Yes. So, meanwhile, we're going to take a little break now. We're going to serve tea and cakes at 3, but the signing room's open, the guests are here. Enjoy the day, and we'll have tea at 3, and then just before 4 o'clock, we're going to take you over to the theatre to see the movie. So, meanwhile, would you please thank Gloria Henry?
So how cool was that, man? Hearing from Rosie Carver herself there. How cool does it sound, man? Like the sort of glitz and glamour of getting a role in Bond before even the films come out. She's saying about being flown around here, there, and everywhere, and the posh cars and the limousines and all that kind of business, man. That must be a good job to score when you get a good job like that, innit?
Mate, I think that all boils down to Cubby and Harry. Cubby in particular, I imagine, in terms of he treated everyone really well. Again, like, I don't know if that would happen these days. Like, obviously, to a certain extent it would, but I think back then it stood above everything else because, you know, there wasn't, you had your Bond or whatever, but there wasn't anything else that quite compared to it, I don't think. And so, you know, they were happy to sort of look after the people. I mean, another thing, do you remember, was it John Gavin was signed on to play Bond and obviously didn't get to do it, but he still had his fee paid for, even though he didn't get to star in it. You know, that's the sort of people that Cubby and Harry were, or Cubby at that particular time was, you know, and, but it does sound pretty cool. I mean, you wouldn't mind just rocking up in this limousine, go to this swanky hotel and all that sort of stuff, would you? So, are you going to try and get a role in the next one then?
Definitely,
Tom? I think they're going to be filming.
I've written a couple of letters. I've said I've got no experience other than high school drama, but I'm really good, and give me a job. That's basically what I've said. Cool. So I'm sure the phone's going to ring any day now. Yeah, that's good. Mine's pretty much the same. I actually sent a clipping of me in front of a mirror acting out some various scenes from the Bond films, and I think they're going to think, "Wow, this guy, he's going to be on board for the next one." Can we maybe play that clip in this episode? I will send you a personal video of it. There you go. That's all right. Very nice. Cool. So after the Q&A then, so they flipped it a little bit to usual, because usually you start the day with watching the film, but this time it was at the end of the day. So we went, which is better. I think it's better that way around, because you get the whole day to, you know, be out in the sun and enjoy it, and then sort of finish on the film. Well, although you say that, Chris, you say that, but basically there is one thing. Yeah, I mean, so obviously they give you the talk as well before you go, because it's in a different part of the complex. They're like, literally, if any of the security people find you off the beaten path, they will eject you immediately. So we were basically shepherded through with some dudes with walkie-talkies, not unlike Blofeld's sort of volcanic minions, really. It was a very. Is that what you told them? Yeah, I probably shouldn't have. But so they walked us through John Barry Theatre. They basically sat us down and introduced the film, and Gloria and Madeleine said a few words before, which I think I got on video as well. So if I've still got that, I'll just stick that in at the end of the episode so you can hear it. And we sat down to watch Live and Let Die, but sadly I had just flown in from the States and I was suffering with a little bit of jet lag, and I didn't make it past the theme song. Like by the time you know, I'm dozing a little bit watching Maddy's scene and the magnetic watch and all the rest of it, and I was just in and out for the whole film. I was quite ashamed of myself. Well, the thing is, okay, so we've been outdoors in the sun all day. I'm trying to make you feel better, buddy. Thanks, man. So we've been outdoors in the sun all day, you know, it was a warm day. We come into this theatre, and the John Barry Theatre, it is so comfortable. Like, the seats are massive. They're so soft. You've got as much leg room as you want, pretty much. We had killer seats as well, right in the front, well, like row just behind the front in the centre. And it is comfy, you know, you could, even if nothing was playing,
I'd happily go there just to sit down and have a snooze. You know, it is that sort of place.
Yeah.
But so the film started, and I was sitting next to Gav, and I look across at you, and like your sort of head's going a little bit. I was like, okay. I thought to myself, shall I give you a little nudge? And I thought, well, he obviously needs a little kip. I'll see how he's doing in 10 minutes. So I watched a bit of the film. I looked over, you were still out, and I think the only time I next saw your eyes open was, you know, the scene where Kananga's having a go at Solitaire when he really loses his rag and smacks her across the face. And I think you just woke up at that point. I'm like,
I can remember being awake for maybe 3 segments. I remember that one. I remember J.W. Pepper in the boat chase and what are you, some kind of doomsday machine, boy? That bit. And then I remember Kananga exploding at the end, and that was about it. So I was really gutted because it was obviously a beautiful 4K print of the film. Yeah. But man, it was all catching up to me. So I just couldn't keep it together.
That's all right, man. But it looked, I mean, the 4K print, these are special things, you know, the color definition is unreal. Okay. So you've got sort of HD and all this sort of stuff, but 4K is that level up, and the detail is so good as well. And it's not just visually, like the sound is superb as well. So really, really cool experience. I think everyone really enjoyed that. Yeah. And then once you kind of woke up at the end of the film, and then we sort of had to say our goodbyes to everyone, didn't we?
That was the end of the day, and it was it was good to see everybody. So why don't we give a shout out to everybody we hung out with?
Okay, so obviously there are so many people there that if we forget to mention everyone, huge apologies. And pretty much everyone aside from Rory from Saturday was there on Sunday as well. So I won't mention them again. But big shout out to Gav, Becca, Stephen Nige, Morton and Morton, AJ, John, Pete Doherty, Tom Ryan, William Robertson, Adam Baker-Grieber, Philip Latchford, and the elusive Mr. Robert Sterling.
Now, Robert Sterling is a mysterious one because I think he's been there pretty much every year that we've been going to Bondstars. Yeah. And I realised, obviously I've seen him on Facebook and Twitter and that under the name of Robert Sterling. And I realised I didn't know what his actual name was. So I cornered him in the corridor. I was like, oi, what is your name? Because sometimes he throws you a curveball, doesn't he? And like I remember when we first met him, he said it was Robert Sterling, but he was like, but today I'm Steve. And it's like, all right. And then so I called him. I was like, what is your name? And obviously the man's in deep cover, so I won't reveal what his real name is. But he told me what his real name was. And he's like, but today I'm Don. And then he just disappeared. So I'm like, this geezer, I don't know whether he's a spy for Eon or something, making sure everybody's behaving himself or what's going on there. But there's some, he's clouded in mystery as our Robert Sterling.
I'm pretty sure he actually works for MI6 and he just travels like back into the country for these little events, which is pretty cool. Exactly, yeah. But obviously big shout out as well to Gareth and Andy for organising it. They do a stellar job every year, and this year definitely no exception. Banging day. Absolutely. So cheers, guys.
And big thanks for permission to use the footage of the interviews as well. That's really, really kind of you. Lovely stuff. Okay, then. So that was that. We went out for a little bit of dinner afterwards, didn't we, you and I? Everybody was kind of heading home at that point, but we were staying on for some extracurricular activities, weren't we, Chris? Tell the people what we were doing.
So not that night. I just sort of have to add in, we weren't doing extracurricular activities that night. No, so we went for a nice meal together, which was great. And then the next day we went location hunting. Now, it's a bit of a strange one, this, because so we were looking for the lake where Fiona Volpe dumps her motorbike, the BSA Lightning, after she obviously kills Count Lippy in the film.
This one is a bit of a legendary. There's 2 legendary unfound locations. For a long time it was where the barrel roll jump from Golden Gun took place in Thailand. A lot of people haven't been able to find that. There was one from Octopussy, wasn't it, where he lands the Acro Star in the pre-titles. Nobody could find that, and I think both of those have been found now, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I think so, yeah.
But nobody's been able to find this point where obviously, like you say, Fiona dumps her bike in the lake. Because
there are a lot of lakes there.
There are a lot of lakes, and we knew that it was in that general vicinity. So we thought, okay, let's have a little yomp around and see if we can track it down. So we got up the next morning and we started off kind of went for some breakfast in Black Park, didn't we? Which was nice, and then went and parked up and had a stomp around. We were probably out there for a good 3 hours in the blazing hot sun trying to find this location. So how was that for you, man? I just enjoyed being outside for the day. That was lovely.
Well, to be honest, just walking and like we were kind of on the outskirts of a golf club, and there are obviously quite nice places in terms of walking anyway, aren't they? Of a golf course, sorry. So so we went. I mean, good 3.5 hours. We were wandering around, and we went. I think we circumnavigated at least 4 or 5 lakes or something like that. And it got to the point on this photo we had some power lines. We were trying to get the angle right and all this sort of stuff. And it was really tricky. And it got to the point where we weren't quite sure. And then we thought, okay, we spotted 1 or 2 lakes on the map that we had. And we thought, those are the only 2 we haven't done. Maybe it's one of those. So we sort of went and had a little investigation and walked around one. And we found a spot where we were like, actually, if it wasn't for the power lines and perhaps some of the shrubbery, this looks really similar. It had the sort of where the bike sort of comes up towards the lake, looked the same. It had the right angle going into the lake. But because we thought, the power lines aren't right, it can't be here. So we went to the other side of that lake, and that's when you and I did our little Facebook Live chat to everyone. Yeah. And kind of, I didn't mind not finding it, but I felt a little bit disappointed. And then we found out subsequently that those power lines aren't there anymore. The ones that are there now are completely different style. They're like the pylon ones. Yeah. And Steve Cook pointed that out, so cheers for that. And so now I'm certain that point that we found, that we looked at, was exactly the same. There's a big tree that was there during filming, which isn't there now, but everything else I think looks exactly the same. So we didn't really take as many pictures as we should have done, but we're going to go back, aren't we, Tommy? We're going to take some pictures. We're going to sort it out. Might take a few of the JBR family along with us, and then see if we can nail it down. But obviously, it might not be it. But I'm like 85% certain that is the spot.
It did look very much like it, wasn't it? Because we were using the power lines as our kind of guide throughout the day, because we could see where the power lines were. And like one of the lakes we went to, the power lines were running right through the middle of the lake, and we're like, that can't be it, because they're sort of in the background and in shot. They're kind of like running along the right hand side of the shot. And then that's the reason why we decided it couldn't have been it, because the power lines were on the opposite side. But I suppose we need to 100% confirm it. We need to find out exactly where the power lines would have been in the 60s. Yeah. And then go back. But I mean, the area around it, power lines aside, looks exactly like it. So I'm reasonably certain as well, but obviously we need to 100% confirm it. So we'll obviously do that next time. But man, it's an absolute pleasure going deep on the geekiness. I mean, look at us. We're two grown men yomping through a field trying to find a shot from a film. But it was 3 hours well spent.
Certainly was, man. Certainly was. And I always think it's quite funny. Like, there was a sweet little old lady walking her dog, and she was like, did she say we looked lost, or what were we looking for, or something like that? And
we were about to go down this little path thing, and she basically told us that it was a dead end down there and didn't lead anywhere. And she was like, we were trying to say we're trying to get through to this lake here, and she was like, what is it you need down there? I'm like, well, actually.
And there is that moment where you're telling people, and they kind of look at you as if, are you serious? And then it's like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool, and stuff. So I do enjoy those little moments. It's good fun, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then after that, we obviously went our own ways, and just like a banging weekend, wasn't it? Absolutely top-notch weekend. Look forward to the next one.
Yeah, absolutely indeed. So that about rounds up the Bondstars report for this year. So I think it's probably time we revisit the Bond trivia question of the day, don't you, Chris?
Yeah, that's it. So the trivia question was from Mr. Steve Atwell. Let's play it again.
Who was the first Australian actor to play Felix Leiter?
All right. So you're going to need to tell me what scent you've got there, because you think there's some trickiness going on here. I must admit, I don't have a clue, because as far as I'm aware, all Felixes are American.
All Eon and Talia Bond film Felixes are American. But is there any other Bond that's been made that you can think of? So not Eon, not Never Say Never Again, and not Casino Royale. Not 67 Casino Royale.
There's obviously 54 before Casino Royale, but he was Clarence Leiter and he was British, wasn't he?
Well, this is it. See, I don't know. I think the actor might have been Australian, because I thought initially, but he is definitely 100% Clarence Leiter, isn't he? He's not Felix Leiter.
Right. Let's Clarence.
That's the only guy that I can think of that it might be. If it's not him, because I thought he was British, but then I think maybe he's the only one other one that I could think of. So maybe he is Australian. Right. But he was definitely Clarence.
I'm getting on the old internet, Chris, and I'm having a look.
Yeah.
So is there any other Clarence Leiter was played by Michael Pate.
Okay.
Oh, Chris.
What's that?
Here we go, look. Michael Pate was an Australian actor, writer and director and World War II Army veteran.
Oh, wow.
All right.
Nice.
So good detective work from you there, mate. I think let's turn it over to Steve and find out if we've got it right.
Hello again, gentlemen. This is Steve Atwell calling back with an answer to a trivia question. The question was, who was the first Australian actor to play Felix Leiter? The answer is Michael Pate, who played Leiter in the made-for-television production of Casino Royale, opposite Barry Nelson. Thanks so much, and I hope you got it right. Ta-ta.
All right. Well, Chris, there's the answer. Michael Pate. I don't know. Yeah, I used the Michael Pate, so I don't know which one it is. Maybe it's Michael Pate. That sounds better.
Yeah.
So there we go. I think we've hit a bit of a stalemate there, Chris, because if we're going to be playing strict rules of golf here, then it's Clarence Leiter. It's not Felix, which would have led me down a different path, which it obviously did. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I guess you could have said Leiter. Steve could have said Leiter, which character played Leiter. But but I mean, it was a really good question because obviously all the Eon ones are American, and it took a while. But that was the only other sort of one that I could think of, really.
Yeah.
But what was his name again? Michael Pate.
Yeah, Michael Pate. Delicious.
Nice.
I think that dude must have been a very good actor because he sounds almost too British in that, doesn't he? He's very plummy and like Clarence Leiter. So either he was one of those Aussies that moved over to England when he was a kid or whatever and just had the accent or whatever. But nice one. Good stuff. I like exploring those periphery Bond things. Do you know what I mean? Where it's not an Eon thing, and it's obviously Casino Royale 54 is quite an oddity, isn't it, in the history of Bond? So
totally.
American Jimmy Bond, Card Sense Jimmy Bond, and Clarence Leiter. But there we go. Interesting stuff. So, Chris, you know what it's time for now, don't you?
It's time for
the Guess the Quote round.
Bond. James Bond.
There it is. Absolutely. Now, last time it was my quote, I believe. Is that right?
It was indeed. Yeah. Right. And I think it was, go for it. Go on. Hit us with it again.
I'm going to perform it for you again. And I have to be honest, you have to be very eagle-eared to get what this is. I imagine you would have a good idea of who might be delivering this, but
yes,
you've got to really be listening out to get this one. Right. I must be honest. So if any listeners didn't get this and are feeling ashamed of themselves, it's all right. It's not your fault. So here it is. Ooh. One more time. Man. Once again, that is.
Okay.
Ooh.
Right. So I'm taking it, Sir Roger.
Yes, you're correct.
Okay. Now, the one that automatically comes to mind, which I don't think it is because I think it's a bit not as pronounced maybe as in the film, is at the end of A View to a Kill when he's in the shower with Stacey Sutton?
Yes! That's the one. That is the one. There is some wonderful stuff there in that last moment. That last time we see Roger as Bond, obviously, you've got that weird little pervy robot, Q in his Winnebago, and you've got Bond and Stacey in the shower. And you hear some like very low audio where I think Stacey says, "Oops, you've dropped the soap," and then he's like, "That's not the soap."
Not the soap.
and then the very last thing you hear, the very final thing you hear Roger Bond say is "Ooh," which I think couldn't be more perfect. Could it really? When we first see him in Live and Let Die, he's in bed with a beautiful lady, and then the last time he's in the shower with a beautiful lady, and it's I mean, what a send off.
It's brilliant, man. I love that. Yeah. And it's perfect, isn't it? Perfect for Sir Roger. Brilliant. Nice one. Because I was trying to think, that's the only one that was the main one that came to mind. But obviously he does do a few of those throughout the series, doesn't he?
He does.
Which he's pretty good at. Okay. So I've got a quote for you this week. Okay. Are you ready for it, Tom?
I'm ready for it, man.
Okay. My quote this week is, get these analysed for her eyes only. Would you like me to say it again?
Yeah, give it to me one more time.
Okay, so the delivery's a bit lame, but anyway. Get these analysed. For her eyes only.
For her eyes only. Interesting. All right. That one's not jumping out at me. But all right, I'm going to give it some thought, and we'll get there next time. Hopefully, good stuff.
Nice.
All right, now do we have a listener quote this week?
We do. We have a new listener quote, and this is Stan from Surrey. So, should we play this one?
Let's do it.
Hello, James Bond Radio. It's Stan here from Surrey. Big fan of the show. Nearly caught up with all your episodes. I'm phoning in with a listener quote here for you. So here we go. It's Mugi Kajwa. That's Mugi Kajwa. Well, best of luck, guys. I will phone in with my answer as well. And I hope you get it. Okay, thanks, guys.
Right. I think what's happening now, four and a half years nearly into the podcast, is I think the listeners, what they're doing is they're sitting down to watch a Bond film and they're thinking to themselves, what is the most obscure thing that I can find in this film that I can use as a quote to send in to Tom and Chris? And I think that's what he's done there, because I must admit that sometimes that's what I do for you when it's time for me to get a quote. I'll have a Bond film on or whatever, and I'll be like, you know what? I'm going to use that one because that's going to give him some trouble. And I think that's what we've got here from good old Stan from Surrey. Now, have you got any leads at all on this?
All I can say is it sounds familiar. I've heard it, obviously I've heard it, but I don't know. I haven't got a film. I don't know what film it is. I don't know what language it is, in all honesty.
It sounds a bit Japanesey to me. So I'm inclined to think one film in particular. Obviously, You Only Live Twice. So, all right. That's the scent I'm currently sniffing. Yeah. So we'll have a think about that next time and find out. Good quote, though. Good quote. Nice to hear from you, Stan from Surrey. Good stuff. So next up, Chris, it's time for...
Who wrote the score for Live and Let Die? Who played Helga Brandt? How did she die? Who wants to stockpile the water in Bolivia? It's Tommy Trivia.
That's right, it's time for Tommy Trivia. This is where Chris takes a card out from the 007 Trivial Pursuit deck and quizzes me on my Bondian knowledge. So I'm ready for you this week, Chris. I've been revising. I've been catching up on things. I'm ready for you.
Nice.
Give it to me.
Right. What category would you like to start with? Gadgets and weapons?
Gadgets
location.
And weapons.
Gadgets and weapons. Okay. Mr. Tom Sears, question 1. What is inside the bomb surprise?
That would be a bomb.
I'm pretty sure it is. Let's have a look. A bomb is right.
Absolutely. Not much of a surprise.
No, certainly not. Okay, on to locations now. Question 2. Where was the real filming location for the underwater sequences in For Your Eyes Only?
Where was the real filming locations for the underwater sequences in For Your Eyes Only? Now, I remember speaking to John Glen about this when we did our interview with him. So, I guess there could be a couple of answers here. So, you could say...
What's your gut say? What's your instinct say?
Well, I feel like they wouldn't perhaps know that those underwater sequences were filmed above water with fans blowing and done in slow motion.
So I think they're talking about the underwater sequences in general. So we're not talking about the trickery with the special effects.
Can I say Greece?
You can, but you'd be wrong.
Oh, bollocks.
It's basically where they shoot most of their underwater sequences in the whole series.
Would that be the water tank at Pinewood?
No. It would be the crystal clear waters of the Bahamas.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Bollocks. All right. Well, okay.
Yeah. No, but
nice.
that was quite a tricky one, to be fair. That was quite a tricky one. This one, you're going to nail it straight away. In what year was GoldenEye released?
1995.
Yes. How quick was that? That's a mastermind answer, that was, Tom. Okay, so casting characters. Who does Louis Jourdan play?
He plays Kamal Khan.
Yes, excellent stuff. Okay, 2 more to go. On to the films. What type of pet does Sanchez have?
He has an iguana.
He does indeed. And what is the iguana's name?
I don't know. What is the iguana's
Neither do I.
name? You son of a bitch.
I was just going to see what you came up with. Maybe it does have a name. Who knows? Okay, and final question. So this is to get 5 out of 6, which you'll definitely get. What is the name of Emilio Largo's customized hydrofoil?
That would be the Disco Volante.
Well, it would indeed. Superb. Now, I've got an extra half-a-point question for you.
Okay.
If you can tell me what the Disco Volante means translated into English.
That would be, as featured in Never Say Never Again, I think, the flying saucer.
Yes, Tommy.
Yeah.
Well, nice. So 5.5 out of 6 in that one.
Beautiful
Excellent
stuff. I'm proud of myself.
Yes.
So next up, final game of the day is...
It's the music cue.
That's right. It's time for Guess the Music Cue. This is where Chris plays us a little tiny snippet of Bond score, and we have to guess the film and the scene that it is from. So You had a wonderful piece for me last time, didn't you?
I certainly did. So I know that you know the film, and it will be down to whether you can get what scene it's from. So let's play it again, and for everyone listening.
Right, that is obviously Die Another Day.
It certainly is. I like that little bit of the Dr. No music. It is kind of cool.
I do like the little quotes that he puts in there. That's nice. I do like that a lot. As to what film it is, what scene it is, I wouldn't have a clue. I mean, it could be the ice chase bit. It could be, I don't know. It could be the Eden Project bit at the end. It could be anything, really. I have absolutely no idea.
Okay. Well, I'll give you get a half mark for knowing it's forgetting the film. It's apart from when he sort of checks out of hospital, or when after he drops his heart rate right down.
Oh yeah.
And then basically breaks out of hospital or whatever. He says, "I'm checking out," and then rips stuff off, and then you hear the do 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 thing,
nice.
or whatever it is. Yeah.
Excellent work. Cool.
Cool.
All right. So you got a new one for me?
I do. Now this one, again, I think you're going to get the film straight away. In fact, I think you might even get the scene straight away as well. It perhaps might not be a hard one, but it is a good one.
All right.
So
cool.
let's have a listen to this week's Guess the Music Cue.
All right.
Right. You're looking kind of, you got a smile on your face, are you, or you're not sure?
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
I have a gut feeling. Yeah, I don't know it immediately, but I've got a gut feeling. I'm just trying to think of what scene that would be.
Ooh.
But yeah, that's a good clip, man. That's a good clip.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, you got a week to think on it.
I certainly do, don't I?
Yes,
all right.
Indeed.
Wickedy wild. All right,
Brilliant.
then. So that about rounds out today's episode of James Bond Radio, our recap of this year's Bondstars event, obviously celebrating Live and Let Die. What a wonderful time it was too. I wonder what they'll be doing next year. There's a lot of anniversaries next year, isn't there? Especially a 50th anniversary that I'm very excited about. So you never know what might be happening there. I've got my fingers crossed for some Majesty's action, but you never know.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, they're actually doing another event this year, but it's kind of, well, it's not Bond, but it's obviously Fleming related. They're doing a Chitty Chitty Bang Bang event in November. I don't think the full details are out, but the date of it is in November. So yeah, if anyone's a Chitty Chitty Bang Bang fan, you could check that out as well.
Absolutely. I suppose at some point I'm going to need to read the non-Bond Flemings. I've never read Chitty Chitty. I've not read any of his non-Bond work, actually. I feel like I should read Thrilling Cities and The Diamond Smugglers and all of that stuff. That's on my to-do list for sure. But
Sounds good.
If you like a little bit of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, then away you go. Good stuff. So next week, Chris, am I right in thinking we have a little bit of a celebrity interview?
We might indeed, yeah. So we have a pretty cool interview and some info to go with it.
Interesting.
Yes.
I'm very much looking forward to that. I'm very excited for this. This is one, obviously, you recorded a little while ago. So you went solo on this particular mission, but I have checked out the footage. And it is very nice. I like it.
You've heard it's excellent.
Indeed. Excellent footage. Cool stuff. All right then. So we will see you next time. James Bond Radio will return next Friday. Until then, I've been Tom Sears.
I've been Chris Wright. We'll see you then, everyone.
Bye.
So would you like to say a few words of introduction, Gloria and Maddy, too?
Yes. Oh, yes. And there's a scene there when I come through the door for the first time when you see me, and they flip me, and a lot of people thought that was me. It wasn't. It was a stuntman. At the last minute, they decided they needed somebody to do it, so they got this smaller frame stuntman, put him in my white dress, and blackened his hand. And as he went through the door, you'll see it. And they flipped him, and I had to start from the bed.
That was a long time ago.
Say much except that I was only in the bed and in the cupboard. That is my part, but I did love it so much. So all of you, please enjoy it. Blink and I'll be gone, but it's never forgotten, always remembered. God bless you all.
So when you see me die, and after the scarecrow has shot me, I'm down on the ground, and all these ants are at me, and I'm saying to myself, will you please hurry up? And these ants are biting me left and right with all the sugar blood.